How has ArcelorMittal leveraged improved English proficiency to drive measurable competency improvements and boost overall productivity? En français, comment ArcelorMittal a pu tirer profit de l'augmentation, de l'amélioration des compétences linguistiques de ses collaborateurs pour améliorer les compétences et la productivité? Donc un sujet directement lié au business. Pour moi, c'est très particulier parce qu'il y a une dizaine d'années, je travaillais aussi dans un projet similaire, un peu préhistorique, avec ArcelorMittal et avec Vincent. Donc Vincent, bienvenue à Vincent de ArcelorMittal University. Voilà. Nous avons aussi Stacey qui est donc Global Head of Learning Platforms, Content and Tools à ArcelorMittal au Luxembourg, au siège. C'est le siège mondial à the Global Headquarter in Luxembourg. Et Teddy Lamazer, qui est Account Manager chez Hult IF, donc le partenaire d'ArcelorMittal pour ce dispositif global, engageant et qui répond, on va le voir, aux besoins business de ce grand groupe mondial qui fait partie de ce qu'on appelle le Fortune 200, une des 200 plus grandes entreprises du monde. Voilà, je te laisse la parole. Please.
Thank you, Alan. If you look at the subject today, it might seem a bit complicated to understand. What we're going to try to look at today is what makes a project successful and what does success look like for ArcelorMittal. I mean, ultimately, all of the companies, they want the same. They want people to improve their language competency skills, and they want people to become more productive, right? But is there something that is more important than that? That's what we're going to try to find out today. We're going to start off here by the EF-EPI 2023. This is a map of the world showcasing the level of English in non-native English-speaking countries. We had a conference yesterday from our academic director, David Bish, talking about this. We use our own test to test millions of people every day, and that gives us very clear data about the level of English in the world. And we're going to try to place ArcelorMittal on that map. With this data, we can actually know what is the level within every sector. And here we have the sector of mining and energy. And if we look at the level of the mining and energy sector, in comparison to the level of ArcelorMittal, there's not a big difference. What we've seen in the last 10 years is that there's been a steady increase of the level of English. Now, what does it mean for ArcelorMittal to improve English, and how is English important for your company?
I'm going to start by giving an introduction about who we are, because we're not a brand name that many people probably recognize. But have you all seen Teslas running around Paris? That's built on our steel. And you see some of the landmark buildings here in Paris, that's built with our steel. When you see the Olympic rings prominently displayed later this year on some of your Parisian monuments, that will be our steel. So that's what we do. Who we are in over 60 different countries. We are the largest foreign investor in Liberia. We are the largest direct foreign investor in the manufacturing space in India. We are the largest steel producer here in Europe. If you showed that map, and for a minute I was like, that could be our map about where we operate. So for us, English language is the one thing that unites us. That is our company language, but it's very difficult for many of those places to have access, especially in some of the areas that we operate are quite remote even. So I would say that if you understand who we are and you understand what we're trying to do to build a learning culture, not having English language learning as what it has become is a catalyst to drive our learning culture throughout the group. I don't know if
Thank you,
Vincent
Stacey.
wanted to add anything in French.
And maybe Vincent, because we already talked about this, about the competition for ArcelorMittal. And we know most of the big world players, but you also talked about local players who are becoming bigger and bigger. Maybe you can say a bit more about how English makes a difference.
I don't think you can hear me. Can you hear me? Hello?
Little bit?
Yes.
Oh.
And now? And now? Better? And now?
Yes.
How is it? Okay, good.
And Vincent, feel free to speak in French if you want.
Okay. Okay, I'll do it in French, this one. I have to think in French now, that's the problem. Oui, effectivement, la remarque de Teddy, c'est nous sommes un acteur global et nous sommes en compétition avec bien souvent des sidérurgistes locaux qui n'ont pas forcément la force de frappe en termes de R&D et en termes de projets de formation et de plateforme globale, ce qui nous permet de donner un avantage concurrentiel dans ces sites locaux, puisque nos employés étant formés aussi à l'anglais, ils peuvent davantage interagir avec d'autres pays, échanger des connaissances, être mieux connectés avec le corporate, aussi bien en bottom-up qu'en top-down, c'est-à-dire que les informations groupes leur parviennent et ils peuvent les assimiler. Et en retour, ils peuvent aussi faire remonter de l'information aux directions globales pour, on va dire, améliorer la fluidité des communications. Donc l'anglais, pour nous, à l'échelle globale, se caractérise par une meilleure capacité à agir localement, ce qui peut paraître un petit peu paradoxal, mais c'est le résultat qu'on a d'avoir ce programme global d'anglais au sein de nos différents pays. Et ça donne un avantage vraiment crucial dans ces pays-là, même au niveau commercial, pour interagir avec des clients.
Thank you, Vincent. And there's a way to look at how English has had an impact on your company, is to look at 3 pillars that for you make a difference. So access, adoption, and also impact. Those are the 3 things that you look at for any type of program that you want to have an impact on your company. Can you tell us a bit more about why are these pillars essential to your company?
So when we started to try to build a real learning culture a few years ago, we started to try to identify what were the barriers for people to access it, and try to remove some of those barriers. We have a large frontline worker population. Many of them did not have access to IT. We've been working really diligently. We just big banged a new learning experience platform, which will almost double the number of people that will have access to digital learning and to the EF program. But one of the things that we really saw was that a lot of the content, even though we did our best to do it in many different languages, that was really impossible. Much of it was still in English, and it was being developed in English, and people just couldn't access it. And it's also really difficult for us at Group Corporate to speak 60 different languages at the same time to everyone, So we were able to go from with the great partnership. We don't consider ourselves clients of EF. We consider ourselves partners. They were able to also identify that this was an opportunity that could be addressed. So we restructured from previously only ever having 1,200, 1,300 licenses to opening access to all of our employees, all. And I can't say that that's the only thing that we've been doing. We've been doing a lot with communication, but that communication is primarily in English. And I can tell you that in the last years since we went from open access, we had We went from 40,000 active learners online to over 100,000 active learners online. That is more than 50% of our employee population, which is, I'd like to talk to another big multinational that has that kind of universal, democratized access and adoption to learning. In the previous years, when we didn't have English as a way for people to explore other learning opportunities, we would get maybe 5,000, 6,000 people interested in some of our global content. Last year, we had 26,000 people interested in that content. I believe it's opening pathways to leadership opportunities. English is a kind of mandatory if you want to be mobile in our company and to work our way up. Last year, in an online leadership program, people self-selected to do it. We had over 9,000 people able to do that for the first time and earned over 26,000 badges. So what we're seeing now is we're able to communicate. If we put a post now on Viva Engage in English, we get over 40,000 views. We have the largest team inside of Microsoft Teams in the company, over 9,000 people. We wouldn't be able to communicate the access to these programs if we hadn't been building gradually over time the capacity for our global audience to interact in English. And the adoption is starting to really show. And now it is an impact in the performance of our, now we're starting to see some really interesting things, which we can talk about some more, about how we're building this network of people who are sharing their knowledge because they have a common way to do that. So I'm sure Vincent has some other perspectives.
Hello? No? Hello?
Well, he does have some interesting perspectives.
Juste quelques remarques complémentaires sur ce qu'on a mis en place au niveau de l'accès, d'enlever toutes les barrières possibles. On est parti d'un modèle où, dans les premières années, on avait un nombre de licences limité. Et on contrôlait énormément l'entrée de qui peut être inscrit au programme d'anglais. On a décidé de vraiment ouvrir les choses et de l'offrir à tous dans la société. Bien entendu, tout le monde ne l'utilise pas avec la même intensité. On a des personnes qui vont vraiment tirer profit de ça, d'autres un peu moins, mais ça fait partie du calcul général, bien sûr. Mais en ouvrant ça et en mettant en place des single sign-on, en mettant en place tout ce qui permet de limiter les aspects administratifs, nous avons vraiment boosté l'accès et on retrouve tous les bénéfices dont Stacey parlait, c'est-à-dire que sur le plan technique, les personnes peuvent à ce moment-là participer dans notre style académie qui propose des contenus en anglais et développer leurs compétences non seulement linguistiques mais aussi techniques. On a des experts métiers qui ne sont pas forcément capables de proposer leur contenu dans toutes les langues. Et le fait d'avoir cette langue commune et d'avoir enlevé les barrières pour y accéder a des effets bénéfiques en termes de collaboration qui sont immenses pour nous.
Something that really strikes me within your company is how you make people want to learn, right? And this is something that you do personally. I mean, you can see that you're passionate about what you do, and making people want to learn something new is not something easy to do, right? So I want you to talk more about the learning culture that you have at ArcelorMittal, because this is something unique and not everyone is capable of doing that.
Oh, I think learning is natural and learning is fun, but we've just done a really good job in our traditional systems of beating that sense of curiosity and that idea that it's fun, because we've made it in most companies about compliance. That's your first journey, right? When you start a new company, go and do your mandatory compliance training, click, 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 click. So we've been really trying, what did you use the term, using those things as a
Trojan horse.
Trojan horse.
Trojan horse.
So we've been working really closely with folks to make sure that even though it's mandatory, it doesn't need to be. And also, even if that gets them to us, that opens the doors for everything else. So we take a lot of cues from social media. We take a lot of cues for making things short, making it fun, and also about making it really, really personal. And I don't mean that, I know that's like a buzzword around here, personalized learning. What do I mean? I mean that I actually get out there and we actually video so we have a weekly session. Last year it was called the Global Learning Hour. This year we just call we're ArcelorMittal University's AMU. That's our internal brand. We're doing AMU Live. In these live sessions, we had over 20,000 in attendance last year. And actually, more importantly, it sparked a series of local people doing very similar things, because we had 4 different themes last year. One of them was leading by example. And we would have kind of these town halls or fireside chats with our CEOs. Think back a few years ago in a big traditional corporation, you would never get to chat with one of our executive vice presidents, We did a huge town hall with our CFO, and people just asked questions live, non-vetted. He was open to that. Now I have the EVPs approaching us. I'd like to share something to everybody about what I've learned in the Kazakhstan crisis or the Ukraine crisis about decision making. That's the type of power, and they're doing that in English. We don't have the facilities to take all of those opportunities and live translate and all the rest of it, which is very expensive too. And so leading by example. We also did AMU around the world, and we visited. That was probably our most liked thing. So when we say we're doing it, even though it's digital, we're trying to make it so that you may never get a chance to go and visit our operations in China, but we took everybody virtually to China, and they thought that was fabulous, And then...
and I was amazed by the capacity of our operational colleagues,
locally,
probably thanks to our English programs,
yes,
share about their work. So they were interrupting for a few minutes, connecting live with us. So imagine you have someone in Spain involved in the maintenance department, and then someone in Brazil. They don't share the same mother language, but they are able to see each other and understand. And this level of connection between our employees is something never seen before.
And I would say, even those were popular, but our most highly ranked session that we do was our live English language global lessons. We had typically over 200 people would be involved with one of the EF faculty members just for our community. So yes, they can do the wonderful app and do it on demand, but they like doing it together. They like doing it with a community of people from their own organization. And so for us, it's been very personal. It's been very hands-on. There's been a lot of synchronous activity and just getting out there and meeting people. And if they didn't, I'll have to also say that part of EF recognizing that English can be a barrier in the communities that we work in, their CSR very kindly even opened up the English language program to the employees' children that we work with. And we have hundreds of children of our employees now taking advantage of English, which for us is even better, because in these communities, we are sometimes the largest and single employer. So it's hopefully we're all even reaching out to the next generation of our employees in these areas because of the CSR initiative that EF underwrote for us.
No, you're right. It's very important to give access to as many people as you can. And you talked a little bit about English forums and about the fact that each month you have different themes within your company, and the idea to have an English lessons about those themes. Whereas, I mean, whether it is project management or wellness or anything, it really makes it catchy, right? And it goes beyond access and adoption. It creates real engagement. People want to have those discussions because they feel they're part of a community. And I think that's what you do very well within ArcelorMittal, creating those international communities. So over the last 10 years, we've trained about 28,000 people in over 50 countries. But there's something that for you makes even more sense is the impact for the people. So what we've done is that we've created a survey and we've asked people, how important is that training for yourself? I mean, does it make any difference? Because if you take a training and there's no difference at the end, there's no point, right? I mean, you can improve your English fluency, but you need to have something more. And those are some of the numbers. For example, 97% feel that they're more confident as a result of their training. So what does confidence mean? It means that people will engage in communication much easier, right? And this is important. You want people to open up. You want people to communicate. We've seen also that more than 90% claim that it saves time. And this is important because you don't want people to be Googling or asking other people, hey, did you understand this? Can you translate it to me? But what is more important, I think this is what you want to talk about, is the fact that it offers inclusion for people. They feel part of a bigger community because they speak the same language. Can you tell us a bit more about why this is important?
I can give an example. I recently went to dinner with some of our candidates in one of our leadership programs, and consistently the aspect of those programs isn't the content, whether they were learning about inclusive leadership or something. The most impactful part of those programs is when we bring people together and the networking and everything. Shouldn't surprise you. But still, you will see those who are from certain regions where their English isn't as strong, all sitting together, talking only amongst themselves, not getting the full benefit of being part of that program, which is bringing people together. We're seeing less of that now because we actually are saying, hey, you should probably get up to a certain level before you start to interact with that. And that confidence is showing. The second thing is that we've just big banged a new LXP on January 1st because of Vincent's really hard work and dedication. And it's a completely different kind of collaborative learning. And we've already started to see people post on there, somebody in Liberia asking for a very specific training on geology, and then somebody in London seeing that and picking that up. And that's the next stage that I'm super excited about, because the community is great, but it's the connections of that collective knowledge and collective wisdom that we will be using to grow performance, where within a week of this very niche topic in mining being requested, it had been upvoted over 40 times, and that's why the person in London then saw it and was like, oh yeah, we need to do that. And of course, how are they going to do that? They're going to do it in English. And so bringing people together across these topics and all of this subject matter experts that we have in our company that previously were not, everybody they're not networked in a way that we could take competitive advantage from that. So I actually think the next stage in people feeling more confident, people engaging more, is going to result in a really strong competitive advantage across the different areas of the business.
And Stacey, you talked about technology, and I think that this is an important part. By giving people access with good technology, then you make access to training easier. And maybe, Vincent, you can tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah, I just want to come back to what Stacey said about the autonomy, the capacity to communicate by yourself, not having to rely on a translator. I think it reminds me of the 3 pillars of motivation by Daniel Pink on mastery, autonomy, and purpose. And I think at least for autonomy and mastery as well, English and having a common language plays a huge role. So the impact on motivation itself is huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And can you tell us a bit more maybe about how technology plays a role into giving access to people and making it easier for people to connect?
Well, that's not something so new. It's been there for a while, but truly now with better access with mobile phone, for example. Let's say 10 years ago, mobile learning was a very big buzzword. It was not really living up to the expectation, but now it's there for real. And access to computers is getting better and better. Although in our company, we still have people who unfortunately cannot access easily on a daily basis due to some technical difficulties. But I would say it's getting better and better. I heard recently that in Luxembourg, every employee will have access to emails now, which was not the case before. And that will really speed up access to learning and using the most modern technology.
And we will be launching the new EF functionality in this new platform that we big banged, and we're really excited. I think that will even drive further the opportunities. I mean, the new platform that we launched, we wanted to stage some of the things that were coming into it over the first months. So people came and they couldn't find and they've already been asking about it. So we know that people are there going, where is it? I need to find it. So I think, but it's going to be worth the short wait that they're going to have to really, because the new platform is even more easy to use. And I think that's really important. If you haven't seen their really cool video, I really was wishing we could show that today. That's a great example of making learning fun. I think that's the other part, is that when you're in those classes, it is still very personal. And, you have actual instructors, you have, online learning is asynchronous, is only going to get you so far, always. And so that part is really the distinguishing factor, the convenience, wherever you are, meeting people exactly where they're at is I think the key, that the technology didn't used to be that way just a few years ago, and now it is.
It is. I mean, we're really proud of what we're actually capable of doing now with the use of technology, but technology in itself is not the only thing that's going to make it work. You need to have real human connections, and you need to have people around it to make it work, right? I know that time is running a bit. I just wanted to show the slide because I think that beyond inclusion, there are different things for people to feel that they're seen, they're supported, they're connected, and they're proud. And we know that by communicating with the same language, you can really open up these things and create even stronger bond. Is there something that you feel that we can do even more to create this aspect?
I think that's probably on us to make sure that everyone does feel that they, again, have access, that we communicate effectively, that we make sure that learning isn't, maybe some of you have heard this, I think when I first started, we've talked about learning, but what we were really doing was training. And that's something we do to people. Learning is something we do with people. And then I even say performance is something we all do together, like a team. And so I think if you really truly want to perform together, everybody has to be a part of that. So, training doing it to people doesn't involve diversity, equity, inclusion, and belonging, because you don't really care. You're going to do it whether they're paying attention or not, whether it's driving any impact or not. Learning, because we learn from one another. If there are people that you haven't included in that, or don't feel like they have that psychological safety to participate, then you're leaving learning on the table, because everybody has something that they can bring to the table. So I'm really hopeful that as we start to include more people that feel that they have a voice, that they're confident enough to share it and their knowledge and who they are, that we can really grow, and we can I do think that then the performance will come, because then everybody will feel like they're a part of the team, and everybody will bring their best, most powerful selves every day too. That's what we're starting to see, you know? And when people are starting to say, hey, yes, I'm an expert in this reliability topic, let me share that with you, even though, and language is no longer a barrier to that. And I think that we're just starting to see now that we have some of the other technology that is working to make those connections, where this becomes a powerful differentiator in performance. Is there anything?
Vincent, we're going to maybe finish by a testimonial. I know this is very important for you to have student testimonials sharing, and this one I think it's quite impactful because it talks about hard and soft skills, right? So this person really shows that it makes a difference in his personal life, in his family, and the people he works with from different cultures. And what do you think that people ultimately want to achieve with this kind of training?
Une remarque en français. Quand je vois ce genre de témoignages, ça me remplit de joie, et beaucoup plus que les nombres, les figures qu'on a montrés avant, 92. C'est parfait quand on a des très forts pourcentages de personnes qui expriment leur satisfaction. Mais avoir un exemple concret comme ça, je trouve que c'est formidable. Formidable. C'est très concret. Et l'impact, c'est pas juste quelque chose de vague, c'est là, la personne s'est rendue compte qu'elle a pu mettre en place quelque chose. Il y a eu un changement de comportement qui a un impact extrêmement positif. Et donc aussi pour l'équipe, pas seulement pour la personne.
Thank you, Vincent. This is it. Do you have any more comments, something that you would like to share with the audience before we give the audience a chance to ask some questions?
Maybe not everybody here is a large multinational company, but I think everybody in today's world probably has a very multinational, multicultural workforce that they're working with wherever they're at. So I would say this, for me, when we stood up and really championed English language learning in the company, not as a nice to have add-on, but really a necessary catalyst to be a part of our broader learning, development, and performance strategy. And I think that's made the biggest difference. You can look at this as something that might just be a nice add-on or a perk, but it's not. The ROI has been substantial, and I think we're only scratching the surface of that. Like I said, that kind of engagement that we have seen grown over the last 4 years, and we're starting to, it's cumulative. You saw those numbers. It's been a cumulative journey, and I would encourage anyone else to really look at that and see if that might be something that would make the difference overall in their learning programs as well. And we also welcome questions. Do we have time for questions? I'm happy to answer questions. You can always find me online on LinkedIn and reach out.
Yes, we have a bit of time for questions, either in French or English, as you wish.
This gentleman here has... oh, hey, sorry.
Yes. Please.
Sure, thank you. It was very interesting, really enjoyable. What time frame did you give to the employees to start their journey, to complete their journey in learning English? And when did you collect the feedback, for example? Did you collect the feedback after, sort of like after the end of the training, or after a few months' time when the employees felt they had gained knowledge in English?
Thank you, Alexandra.
So the feedback collection is a kind of general survey that applies to everyone. So some people may, I think we filter to avoid sending it to people who just started like 1 month ago because it doesn't make sense. But some people get the feedback, the survey link like 9 or 10 months after they started. So they are already a few months into their program. And we do that. I don't think we do it every year. We do every 2 years.
Yeah.
To allow enough time, because that's one thing I wanted to mention is that the development of language skills is something quite slow. So it takes time. So I'm always amused, but when some people contact us and say, I urgently need to be registered with the English course because you're not going to learn English next week. It's going to take more time. But yeah, that's indeed we leave enough time for the collection of feedback. But in terms of pace of learning, this is very different from one person to another. Some people will do a huge work and study time. We've seen people studying like two hours a day for 1 year, and they reach 2 or 3 more levels in the CEFR. And other people who just go once in a while, but they keep steadily improving. So there's no standard for the duration of programs.
And I'll just add that from time to time, a certain region has identified that they need to boost their English language learning as a group. We really encourage those programs. And that way, then they can actually say, hey, let's see how we all do in this 6 months period. And so then there might be more uniform expectations about development. So it sometimes it's really individual-led, and occasionally if a certain region has decided that it's a priority, then they will do some more as well. And then if there is anyone that really has a very strategic need, then we open up for additional cost, really intensive one-on-one for them.
Thank you very much. Actually, my question was a bit related. My question was related actually to the duration of the trainings.
Who are you?
Oh, yes. Good morning. My name is Yvan, and I work for Cambridge University Press and Assessment. Actually, my first question is regarding how do you keep your students engaged in their training, all throughout their training, given that, you may have different profiles. And my next question is, do you assess them at some point?
Thank you.
Everyone starts with the FSET, so they know exactly where they're at. So that's why it's very different for everybody. And then they assess at a later point. So that tracks with any other international norms around it so they can see where they're at. How to keep them engaged. I'll speak more broadly about all of our learning programs. We have fun. We do a lot of short videos that feature one of our most popular videos that we did was for Halloween. We went trick-or-treating around the building. We went trick-or-treating for Microsoft IT tricks. So I dressed up as a witch, which some people say isn't far off sometimes from my normal look and feel in the office, but we gave out candy, and we videoed it, and we made it really funny, and now that people come to us, we start always. This gentleman is a wonderful digital storyteller. Everybody is on TikTok and Discord and all these other platforms, and for me, that's just a different type of learning. What is successful about that is that it's engaging, it's personal. A lot of times people are directly speaking to the camera. They're using good graphics. They're using music in fun ways. So we use a lot of really fun music. We don't expect that if you just say, hey, you should do this. No, people want to be, I'm not saying we're like trying to produce Netflix videos, but I am saying that soon, maybe soon. But we really do. And I think that if you see the new EF video, it's got some of the same elements to it. Catchy music, strong visuals, a very strong identity and brand. So last year and this year, everybody knows us now by I guess it's our catchphrase. Our catchphrase is be curious. That's what we want from everybody. That we just want to encourage be curious. If you don't understand something, ask somebody, ask us, ask whatever. And driving that message home in really fun ways throughout all of the things that we do so that people can see the impact that it could make and feel like it's open to them. So I think it's, you know, we never had to tell people drive engagement in kindergarten.
One thing we do also sometimes is recognize top learners. So
Yeah.
we do have our EVP HR sending personalized messages to people who really invest time and efforts in learning. So this is something that is relatively simple to do, but
Yeah.
I can tell you the impact is always very good. Like people, they feel that the efforts they put, of course, they must see the benefit for themselves in principle, but also they see that it's visible by others. Say, you're investing time to make your skills better, and we really thank you for that. That's very important.
I can also say there's a science behind this. It's not just because I think it's fun. I actually studied social network analysis and how certain things actually drive people to act. So it's not just about people consuming media, it's about how do you drive action. So for example, one of the best examples of that a few years ago was when the Black Lives Matter campaign especially took off. That was a series of content-driven posts in social media, but it drove action on the ground. It got people to do something, to act on that. And so there is a science behind how you create those social networks, and we've been leveraging that too to make sure that we are trying to drive so that learning has become an action that happens, not just something we talk about as part of that. And I'm happy to talk about that, but there's the science-y bit is kind of not as exciting.
Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, last question. Please, just, oh, wait. Tu te présentes?
Yeah. Hi, my name's Alexis. I work for a language teaching company in France. I had the opposite situation where I had a very successful 2-year period with a smaller company. The language lessons were going great, the people were improving, but the human resources decided that it was too slow. And so how can you explain how can you communicate to people who are investing money, but they feel that they're not getting the return on investment? What are the arguments that you can maybe put forward to convince people to keep on persevering?
Oh, that's a really interesting perceptive. Okay, one of my personal mantras in anything is you cannot require change, you can only inspire change. So I would put that back. If your expectation for change management is that the problem is everyone else, you're probably already failing at that. So I would more diplomatically state to my HR colleagues, how are we going to support and inspire a community that would allow this change that you're seeking to accelerate? And also I'd want to know more about that. I'd be curious about what is the benefit of FAST? What is the ultimate goal they're trying to achieve? And what would they be willing to put into that equation to support that? You know, I constantly talk to our leaders and I'll say, if you don't allow and empower people to carve out time in their day to prioritize learning, if you're expecting them to work a 40, 50-hour week and then go and do this learning in their free time, that's requiring people to change. That's not providing the conditions to inspire that change. And so, you really have to talk with them about what conditions they are doing to, if somebody's not moving fast enough, it's oftentimes not the person or the team's fault, it's the coach's fault for not setting the right expectation or creating the conditions by which they can succeed. I don't know if everybody will agree with that, but oftentimes we are very good in HR, which we fall under group HR, of complaining about the situation and not looking in the mirror and saying, did I create the conditions for the situation that I am now unhappy with?
And I would add to that just to respond to your question, that we have this self-study access open. So we know some people can be slow. Some people can feel that it's not the right moment, they made a mistake, they should not have registered, it's not for them right now, but maybe 1 or 2 years later, their job has changed, they need to interact more, the pressure of using English gets higher, let's say a positive pressure, and then the situation evolves. So they are free to come back and they are not lost their access, they can still renew and restart their access if it's the right moment for them. So that's also the benefit of having an open model.
Yeah, the positive peer pressure thing is super important. You know, we constantly, so when we do this weekly session, we have one invite that goes out for the whole year and with one link, and we change the back end of that link. So we can actually track how many click that link, and we can also see who forwards those things. So now what we see is, because we're constantly saying, if you've liked this, tell a friend. Me being able to talk to 200,000 people, I mean, I'm trying really, really hard, but I'm limited. But how do you hear about most things in life? Because somebody that you knew, that you like. So now I can see every week, now how many people accept, and now about, I would say it's growing to about 20% are forwarding. So I think that if change isn't happening fast enough, it's because you need to figure out who your early adopters are, who your real promoters are, and really incentivizing them to really tell more about it, why it's impactful for them.
Thank you, Stacey and Vincent, for showing a lot of passion about what you do. Personally, it's been great to work with you, and thank you so much.
Are you going to show that video? Oh, I'm so excited because the music that they did, that they have is really cool.
Voilà une petite vidéo.
There.
This is our cycling team. If you're a fan of the Tour de France or the Giro or La Vuelta, we now have men and women competing under the same shirt. I think that's great. This is also part of our values.
Voilà, c'est 1 minute 38. Après, il y aura une petite pause. Et c'est parti.
We cannot hear the sound.
Okay, so we won't be able to get the sound on. So I invite you to come over to the stand M52. Do we hear more about the connection, the relationship between EF and ArcelorMittal? Thanks a lot.
Thank you,
Thank
guys.
You, Vincent.
Thank you all for your kind attention. I appreciate it.
Et merci beaucoup. Et donc voilà, c'est aussi une très longue histoire, une très belle relation.
Coming from there.
On va arrêter, je pense. Voilà, merci beaucoup pour vos questions, pour votre présence. Enjoy the show. Merci.